Uh-oh.
Gonna tell you about me. It's so fine. Helps me lose weight. I don't need no one. Got that protein. It's making me strong. Eating meat all day. I can't go wrong. No more veggies, no more greens, just meat on my plate. Fulfilling my dreams when I sleep at night. I feel so cool. Meat for life, breaking all the rules. Meat for life, it's my way to thrive. No more crazy, crazy boy, I'm alive. Gotta get my fix, gotta satisfy. Meat for life, gonna reach the sky.
Well, that was interesting. This is something that Scott and John put together, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. But for those of you joining for the first time, welcome to Ferrigno Freedom Channel. I'm Dante Ferrigno, back again to hang out with you guys live today, and we'll talk about some carnivore events and maybe get some of your questions and thoughts and see what we can do today that's going to help somebody else find a way of eating that might change everything for them. And let me go ahead and bring in my good friend John here. He was with us last time. Welcome back, John.
Hey, Dante, how you doing?
Hey, your phone saw your thumbs up and gave something happened there. Did you know about that?
Oh,
like
yeah,
a-
there's there's something in the software where it does let's see if I can do that again. It kind of makes oh yeah, there it goes. Yeah.
Man, it's a brave new world we live in, and that video
Oh
we just
yeah.
watched was something else. We'll talk about that in a second. But I just wanted to introduce the guest we're going to bring in today. This is a friend of John's that he brought in. Let me see here. He brought onto the carnivore way of living. For those of you who don't remember, John was with me last week. If this is the first time you're joining us live, and John was a new convert to carnivore. So I guess first, maybe you can give him a quick intro for yourself. A lot of the folks here know about my story, that I've been on lion diet now for close to a little over 3 years, and I've dabbled with trying to do regular carnivore and things like that. But every time I turn around, if I stray from lion diet, I wind up suffering somewhat. And I've been getting back to just pure meat, water, and salt, beef, water, and salt mostly, but ruminant meats. And it is just in a week of cutting out everything else in my life, it's gotten me to feel like I feel normal again. I feel like I'm back after I've been talking about the first few months of this year where I had something going on. I think it was just letting some things get back into my diet and get back into my life that weren't good. And it's just a reminder to me that we got to keep that junk out of our life if we want to be able to operate properly. It's like having a nice car. You don't want to put bad gasoline in it because it ruins everything about it. Go ahead and introduce yourself, John, and let them know how, what your story is with carnivore just a little bit, and then we'll bring in your friend Scott.
Yeah, great. Yeah, Dante. So I always had a really healthy life. I was raised by a dad who is really into healthy living. He's 91 right now, takes no medications. He's doing fantastic. And so I had always been, I went to, cutting edge docs. I worked with a DO, always taking my proper supplements, exercising, everything. But I was really at a point where I really needed a kind of a John 2.0 reboot. And I really needed to kick it up. And had some health issues going on. And I'd read a lot about carnivore. And I thought, well, maybe I'll give this a shot. But what really did it was when I saw your videos. I had been looking at the books for probably about a year and a half. I had seen Saladino's book and read that, and but it really hadn't sort of kicked me into gear. But I was looking for a 2.0 reboot, and started going on YouTube and looking at things. And that's when I saw the Ferrigno Freedom videos, and you got me pumped up, Dante. What can I say? I mean, I saw your success, and I saw the Dante 1.0, and I saw the Dante 2.0, and I said, man, I want to see if that'll work for me. And so I came from a world where, like you, I had already been doing keto and everything else, but it just was getting me, it wasn't getting me there. And boy, when I followed what you were doing and I kicked in carnivore, amazing things happened. And I got so excited that I started telling everyone about it in my little world here. I mean, you have, thousands and thousands of people that are following you, but, just among my circle of friends and family, I started talking about it. And lo and behold, other people just said, hey, they want to jump on. And so one of the things I did was I created a little informational site because it was taking a lot of time talking to everybody all the time and trying to explain everything that I had seen. And I wanted to create a resource for people. So I created the Carnivore Knowledge website, and that's been great. It's a free site that just allows people to go on and look at videos, read articles, everything else. And that was a lot of fun putting that together. And so I did that. And as I said, I started talking to a lot of my friends about it. And Scott was, after my wife joined me pretty early on. She's had amazing success. Lost a bunch of weight, got really healthy, feels amazing. But right after my wife, Scott was the next in line. We were chatting on the phone, and he was looking for certain things in his life, and I'll let him tell you the story. But Scott joined in, and it's been absolutely fantastic working with Scott, letting him, kind of advising him as far as, what I knew about it and giving him my little tips and tricks. And it's actually been a ton of fun. We're back and forth all the time, text, phone, this, that. And it's been really great seeing the success that Scott has seen from the diet. And as usual, there's always the on-scale results and the off-scale results. And a lot of times, well, most of the time, people go on carnivore because they're looking for the on-scale result. And I think the reason why people stay on carnivore is because of the off-scale results that are amazing, that ripple through your life and that affect things that you never even anticipated. That was certainly the case with me. And I'm excited to hear Scott tell his story because we're going to hear some amazing off-scale results from Scott.
Yeah, and I see here he's an IT consultant living in Melbourne, Florida. Scotty embarked
That's
on
correct.
a carnivore diet in January of 2024, so this is his fifth month, I guess, or fourth month, with the goal of weight loss. Scotty achieved phenomenal weight loss, but also received many unexpected life-changing benefits from his carnivore diet. Benefits include a tremendous energy boost, vastly improved sleep, improved complexion, and most importantly, a dramatic reduction in anxiety. Scotty grew up in the Bronx, New York. All right, well, let's bring Scotty in here. Hey there,
Hello,
Scotty.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to all. First, Dante, I want to thank you for letting me participate in this forum and to share my story of my carnivore journey. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, the honor is mine to have you here, and I'm thankful that you're here to help spread the word to other people, because there's so many people out there that I know are looking at this with a side eye going, I'm not so sure about this. But the more people that come out and show how it's changed their lives, the more people are going to get their lives changed from it.
Yeah, it's amazing, and as I go through, I'll kind of talk through how it happened, and just I'll tell you what happened. Like the song that started out, like a lot of amazing things go on now, right? This this song, and what really was John was speaking to me about Ray got a list, he said, Scott, about the benefits, basically the off-scale benefits of carnivore, right? So I made the little list, said this is what my, because we were going to write something up, just as like to get ready for this, right? Mm-hmm. So I did that. At the same time, my son, who's really into like all the latest technology, he sends me this little app. It's an AI app, like an artificial intelligence app, where you just put sentences, right? You put a few sentences in and it generates a song. So while I'm speaking to John, I put these few sentences in, and it's like magic, right? So just like carnivore, it generates a whole song on carnivore. So that kind of blew my mind. So I shared it with John, and thank you for playing that. So I just think it's kind of like represents the new way of doing things, new way of eating, the new way of just everything, the way the world's changing. But so what happened with me is, I know John probably close to 20 years. We raised our sons together. We lived on Long Island together. So we got very close. We actually got very close. We always called it BOB, like a band of brothers. And, so now we eat a lot of meat. So we're band of beef now. That's our new saying that we call each other. We're band of beef. But basically, my background is, I was pretty much like normal weight, never had to worry about my weight at all my whole life till I was in Manhattan around, the whole September 11th thing. And when that happened, I noticed, so I really didn't think about it. I put on a lot of weight. Like, I don't know if it was depression, whatever it was, but I just kept putting on weight year after year. And I got very heavy. I'm very heavy. I mean, I was almost 400 pounds, right, at one point. So about 10 years ago, I went for the gastric sleeve operation, and I dropped like 120 pounds there, right? So now, but I'm still a big guy, right? It's 280, right? So I, the gastric sleeve helped a lot, but I still got to go. I still have a way to go, right? So, up and down, 10 pounds, 5 pounds, that kind of thing, right? So beginning of the year, like everybody else, what you do is you look for that, that diet, right? We're going to kickstart the new diet for the year. So I was on the phone with John and wish him Happy New Year. So he starts telling me about carnivore. I said, you know what? It sounds like I know I could do that. I mean, I could eat meat and eggs. It sounded too good to be true. Like, the side glance, I definitely, but you know what? It was something to do that I said, I'll try it. Well, I have to tell you that the weight loss there's no effort. I'm never hungry. I'm down now. I lost another 2 pounds yesterday. I'm down 42 pounds. I don't really ever feel hungry. I eat all I want, which is, I don't know if that's the right way, but it's working for me. I eat all I want. My skin is like, I'm 62. My skin feels like almost like it's like silky. I sleep like a rock. And another piece I haven't, but I'll share with the forum. I have epilepsy, right? So, that was another concern of, whenever you kind of play around with your diet and things like, it's just like a little kind of out there when you first look at it, eating meat. So I was kind of concerned about that. So the fact that John had shared some information about a neurologist that stood behind this also, I was happy about that. So I tried it. And, from the get-go, like it's consistent. It just keep dropping. But off scale, life is great. I have tons of energy. I'm sleeping great. And there was another benefit here. I think he talked a little bit about it, and it's in the song too. There's a line in there that said, "No more crazy boy," right? I had a very kind of like, like for the last maybe 20 years, a very, what I'd call a hair trigger kind of like, it's called IED. It's actually, I was diagnosed with intermittent explosive disorder. Well, you pass the salt and they'll flip the table, like, not that bad, but like, sort of like, very short fused where, it was unnecessary, right? Since I'm on this, I'm like even keeled. I'm just like, very mellow. Everything's great. Like, it's like, so I'm very happy. So, I mean, I'm just going to stay on it. And that's why I made my handle Scotty Meat-4-Life, because not only I intend to do it for life, but it really is for life. It really has given me life, and I feel alive, and I haven't felt this way in a long time. So thank you both, and thanks Carnivores. So
that's awesome.
Thank you.
It's always good to hear of such progress like that, especially on the mental state side. It's something that dawned on me while you were discussing that, something I'd never thought of. I thought of how all the inflammation that gets into our bodies, that from all the foods that we eat with the ultra processed things like that, those chemicals and those different things that are in the food we used to eat were probably making us hurt to make us want to feel like we were ready to go off like a hair trigger all the time. But there's another side to it that I realized. As people eat mostly carbohydrates, the reason why we overindulge is because our body's still hungry. We're not satiated. And we're trying to limit how much we're eating when we're on a regular standard American diet, the SAD diet. And that doesn't work for weight loss. When you're trying to cut back the amount of food you're eating, you're telling your hypothalamus, oh, there's no food available. So your body, your brain tells your body to go in storage mode so that you can keep any food that comes along stored away, any extra fat stored away. And then on top of that, you're hungry all the time. So I would imagine that would play a big role in causing you to have that explosive anger type of thing like that.
And now I'm on a very balanced diet, a steak in each hand.
Exactly. Hey, real quick, before we get along too far, let's say hello to some of the people who were here right when we came in today. We got Carnivore Rabbi is here today. He was the first one to get in. We introduced him a few weeks ago as, what did he call it? The Zen Carnivore. And then he kind of realized that didn't really jive with what his motivation is. So he went to where his lifestyle is. He's a Jewish rabbi. So Carnivore Rabbi. So we're crossing faiths, we're crossing races, we're crossing sex lines, we're crossing age lines. I mean, it's really amazing to see how this is catching on for so many people to be able to get healthy and happy. Let's see who else we got in here. We got John Midas was here. Christine's here from New Jersey. Dutch Carnivore's here. Dutch Carnivore's been on the show before with a live stream. He's a type 1 diabetic that lives over in the Netherlands. He bicycle races across Europe and does all kind of amazing things. And he's on a carnivore way of eating. Nancy Chandler says meat for life. Georgina Barclay is here from Durham, England. Awesome. Suzanne B is here from North Carolina. We got Mosca Frog Lover. Hi there from good old San Antonio, Texas. I got a son that lives down in San Antonio. Linda McNeil says she can't view this. I don't know what that means, Linda. If you're still viewing it, let me know what your problem is. We got everything working on our end, and folks are watching. Let's see. Nancy Chandler says it's really not that complicated. Unfortunately, our agriculture industry has been killing us with pesticides like glyphosate and GMO crops. That is a big part of, I think, what has helped us so much is that we don't realize most of the breads, like, I don't know about you, but I used to live on a lot of sandwiches. I would make hamburgers, and sandwiches were some of my favorite things because I could take them with me and go about my busy day and just have it with me in the car or wherever else. And you think of wheat and the things that go into making bread. If you don't read the ingredients, you think to yourself, hey, Jesus used to eat bread. It can't be that bad, right? Well, it's not like the bread that they had back then. And even the wheat isn't even really wheat. It's some kind of genetic mixture that is, I'm sure our bodies look at and say, I don't know what to do with this. And then on top of that, to harvest most of almost all the wheat crops I know of, the way they're harvested is they got to kill off all the wheat with Roundup or glyphosate. I can never remember how you say that word, but they got to kill off the wheat about 3 or 4 days, maybe a week before they harvest, because it makes it much easier to get it out of the ground, and they don't have to fight with the live plant trying to stop them. And they say that it's safe for us to eat that. It doesn't make sense to me that they can cover our food with poison. And even though they say they wash it, I mean, we just got washed poison is what I think of. And that certainly is affecting.
Then, of course, Dante, they're not just killing us, but in order to do the monocropping, they're killing everything. You know,
yeah.
So, you'll hear the vegans will say, oh, well, I don't want to kill an animal. Well, you're killing thousands, millions of animals because you're killing everything that lives to plant those crops. You're killing the bugs, you're killing the worms, you're killing the critters, you're killing the birds that are feeding on the bugs, you're killing the critters that are feeding on the critters, and the whole food chain. You're wiping it out. It's a scorched earth. So it's the worst. And then you're poisoning the land.
The whole ideology idea behind diet and food just doesn't make any sense. If you're trying to do it to save the planet or save the animals or save something, it just doesn't work out. And that's one of the things I love about a carnivore way of eating is it's not ideologically based. It's just mostly, if you really think about it, it's common sense. If you pay attention to what we used to eat, and even when you read in the Bible, they had cattle, they had herds, they were sacrificing animals that they wanted to eat, and then they had to eat them for some of their sacrifices. Men have been eating meat for thousands and thousands of years. Some would say millions of years. I'm not here to debate the whole how the history of the world developed, but there's no doubt that people have been living on a meat way of eating mostly for a very long time. And they were able to eat a lot of the vegetation and breads and things that we were able to make because we hadn't destroyed them with genetic changes and all the stuff that we spray on them. And I think that's where the big problem comes in. That's what Nancy was kind of pointing out. We also got Meat, Music, and Life here from West Fife, Scotland. I mean, so we got folks all around the world tuning in to hear about your story, Scotty. Let's see who else we got here.
Hello, world.
Pat Beater says, afternoon all. Nancy says, we do need the fat from meat, and that's absolutely true. Carnivore Brothers are here saying, hey, fellas, good to see you guys.
Hey, brothers.
And Nancy, by the way, is from Southern California. Let's see. Aces High is here from Dallas. And see, there's other folks that have a similar story to share as you. I just wanted to thank you directly for putting me on this path. Started on August of 2023, down 170 pounds. Pants 60 down to 50. Shirts from 8X to 5X and still dropping every day. I mean, talk about big successes there.
Wow.
Carnivore Brothers are hoping to meet me in Austin. I'm hoping to meet you guys there too. You know, Katie and I don't like to fly anyway. I've always been a little bit afraid of heights, and getting on a plane, every time I get on a plane, I'm just like, I'm holding on when we take off and when we land. But I mean, I've flown all the way to China before and been okay with the flight. But lately we've been hearing about Boeing getting in trouble with stuff, and all these airlines want to hire all these different pilots that don't seem to be interested in flying. They're interested in other things. So hopefully we will be there, Carnivore Brothers. I certainly plan to. I've already spent the money on the tickets, and they're non-refundable. So I figure we're just going to trust the Lord's going to carry us through over there. I just don't like hearing about all these things that are going on in the world around us. But hopefully more and more people getting their minds clear by getting their diet fixed are going to fix some of this insanity.
Hey, Dante, I've got a question for Scott that I think your audience might be interested in. Scott, in my case, it was a little bit easy because my wife went on carnivore with me right away. So it's very easy to prepare foods, and it's mainly my wife and I, and then my son came home, and he's now on carnivore. So it's very easy because everything we make is carnivore. But I know in your house, you know, you have your wife who's not on carnivore currently, and for a while you had your mother and your mother-in-law there, and they weren't on carnivore. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about, you know, how you manage that, you know, because you're doing your carnivore eating, and the rest of the household's doing maybe standard American or some type of diet that's different. And how do you balance it out? How do you, you know, get your own foods and everything is working out? Because it's obviously working out really well. And I'm wondering how you're doing that balance.
Well, one of the things that would be good to talk. Were you asking me?
So no, I was asking Scott.
Oh, my bad. Because I live in that same situation. But go ahead, Scotty.
Okay. Yeah.
Tell me with the situation, right, Dante? Like my wife is very supportive, right, which is wonderful. So, you know, and also the benefit of this is that, you know, I'm really kind of take care of myself now. I mean, I kind of sit down and, you know, or I just go in the kitchen and, you know, she kind of complains about the smoke sometimes, you know, because I kind of am in a rush and I'm burning meat out there a lot. But she, you know, so pretty much I just throw some steak. It's all like so simple. I cook when I want. I pretty much take care of myself. You know, we try to coordinate the meals. So that was very important to us, you know, to sit down and have a meal together because there's more to a meal than just eating, you know. So that's where we kind of chat and kind of noodle through things. But I cook for myself, you know, breakfast. I have breakfast myself, lunch. You know, a lot of times what she does now is because she's supportive. She'll prepare like, you know, meatloaves and stuff like that for me. So when I come down, because I'm still working, unfortunately. So I come down and she has meatloaf prepared for me. So being very, and I'll big shout out to my wife. Thank you, honey, for being supportive. So I appreciate it. But yeah, John. So it's all working out, and I'm supportive of her, and it's all about, man. So it's cool.
That's
Scotty,
great.
did
And
you have
then
any?
also,
Oh,
no, please, Dante,
I
if
was
you
going
could
to ask you
comment too,
real
because
quick
you may have had a similar.
if you had any cholesterol issues going into this, if you had any concerns about that, or if you know, if that was something you were looking at, because we had a comment here from Petra Green said scared to do carnivore for the cholesterol, and they're diabetic, 64 years old. Greetings from Belgium. This is probably one of the most common concerns I hear with
Yeah,
the carnivore way of eating.
absolutely right. So to whoever put that out there, okay, I am currently on cholesterol and blood pressure pills, right? So now I have noticed, and my next appointment with my doctor, okay, my general practitioner is in a month, right? So I know he's going to be very pleased at my weight loss. I take my own blood pressure. I do see my blood pressure has gone down. The cholesterol, you know, again, it's going to be magic, right? If I go there and then everything John tells me, right? I mean, it's going to be lower my cholesterol, which I can't wrap my mind around it, Dante. But you know what? It's in the results, right? So when I go there and he goes through and looks at all my and because just as a side note, I share with you, I had the gastric sleeve. There's a tremendous kind of like emphasis on watching the balance of nutrition in my body, right? Because so they give me, when I get a blood test, they go like full tilt, right? They look at every vitamin to make sure that I'm getting what I need because my stomach is so small. So I do take supplemental vitamins in the morning, right? Because I have to, right? Because I want to make sure that, you know, I'm sure there's things that you get everything from meat, but I just in case I need to take those just in case. So I will report back on the whole cholesterol situation. I'm hoping to be off them. And that's my hope, to get off all medication, you know, blood pressure and cholesterol pills. But I have the same concern. It kind of, as I sit there and I'm eating fatty steaks, you know, because of all the brainwashing, you know, we've had in our, you know, just by everywhere, you know, I'm eating it. I'm like saying, what am I doing to myself? This is crazy. But like I said, I woke up this morning down another couple of pounds. So, you know, something's happening, right? So I'll let everybody know. I'll report in, Dante. I promise. So hopefully I can report
And
with
that's
you.
great. That's great, Scott. I also would like to take the opportunity, Dante, if I could, to respond to that a little bit on
Yeah.
the cholesterol point, because it is such a very commonly brought up point. And the thing is, with when you go on any kind of ketogenic diet, and of course, carnivore is the best keto diet because it's literally a zero carb diet. Very often, your cholesterol will actually go down because a lot of the cholesterol that is produced in your body, most of the cholesterol in your body, 80% of the cholesterol in your body is actually produced by you in your liver, as opposed to only 20%, which is dietary. And what controls the production of cholesterol and regulates that is actually the amount of insulin in your blood. The more insulin in your blood, the more cholesterol your liver is going to produce. So when you lower your carbs, you lower the insulin. Now, that is as far as the cholesterol that you're producing. However, in the liver, there is another factor to consider, which is the phenomenon called lean mass hyperresponder. So very often, as you mobilize, and even if you're not a lean mass hyperresponder, as you mobilize fat into your body, the body fat that you have, in order to turn into the fatty acid components that you're actually going to turn into ketone bodies and burn, passes through a phase where it actually is LDL cholesterol. And so your LDL cholesterol can actually increase, but that's not a problem. Because as the experiment that you'll see on the Carnivore Knowledge website, I've got a bunch of stuff on this. If you click on cholesterol, you'll see a lot of videos and a lot of research articles about it. Is the gentleman who's an MD PhD who did all the experiments around lean mass hyperresponder actually found that he could reduce his LDL cholesterol by eating Oreo cookies. Well,
No.
if you're, yeah, he did. So, and the reason is that when your body is burning fat, it's burning your own body fat, that fat is passing through an LDL state. And so the LDL can be higher. Now, is that a problem that the LDL is higher? No, because what really causes heart disease is inflammation of the endothelial lining. So there's a one cell thick lining, I think it is, which is a thin lining in the inside of your arteries. And that gets inflamed by high insulin levels. When it gets inflamed, it can be damaged, and cholesterol is actually one of the building blocks that your body is using to repair the damage. So it's kind of like the fireman at the fire. It didn't create the fire. We're not going to eliminate fires by getting rid of firemen. It's the repair mechanism which is responding to the damage in the first place. The damage is caused by high insulin. So when you're on a zero-carb diet, your insulin is rock bottom. So the inflammation goes away. So therefore, the repairs are not necessary. So the buildup of cholesterol inside your arteries is not going to take place. So even if your LDL goes up, which it very often can, and that's only because you're mobilizing fat from your body, you're also mobilizing fat that you're consuming. But the fact that that goes up slightly is absolutely not an issue. And so
I have to prepare myself, and thank you for explaining that, John. So I have to prepare myself that perhaps my general practitioner may not be heightened on that, like in terms of if it is higher, I'm going to say hopefully it won't be, but if it is higher, he may not see it the same way. Is that a possibility?
Absolutely, yeah.
There's a good friend,
another good friend of mine. Yeah, another good friend of mine is a chiropractor, and so she's pretty up on medicine, and she's been on Carnivore since about February, I would say, and her LDL cholesterol went up about 30 points, and she called me up. She was all worried. Oh, this diet, it's over for me. I can't do this diet anymore, and I sent her a couple of articles. As a matter of fact, I then posted them onto the Carnivore Knowledge site, explaining why it's not an issue. In actuality, her HDL had also gone up. HDL is what you want to have go up. Her HDL had gone up by 20 points. That's a very good thing. It's very difficult through exercise even to get your HDL to go up 20 points, and you want that to go up. Another factor about cholesterol is that, as I said, cholesterol is not the problem. It's the inflammation that's the problem. One reason we know also that cholesterol is not a problem is that cholesterol is directly correlated with longevity. So once I think the studies they did were people who were 50 over or 60 over, I forget which, but over that age, the higher your cholesterol, the longer you will live. There's a direct correlation.
There's
and
the
I
answer.
think that's because that's the answer, man. Right? I mean, that's ultimately the best test.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
I know that
we're
overweight. I know that being overweight, I had a grandmother who always told me, a bowling ball is 10 pounds, right? So she used to say every 10 pounds, if you're walking around 50 pounds, it's like walking around all day with 5 bowling balls. And, that can't be good, right? So I'm hoping to report in at the end of the year down to my goal weight, another 50, and then we'll be good. And I'll live with the high cholesterol to get to that point, but that's my goal. So thank you all. I really appreciate it, Dante. It's just been great.
And when you see those cholesterol numbers and you share, your doctor wants to talk about them, I was thankful that I had a doctor who was somewhat interested in what I was talking about here, but he didn't want to give Carnivore all the credit. He just wanted to be able to say HDL is up, triglycerides are down, and your waist size has gone down. Those were the 3 things that he looked at for metabolic health, and I've heard some of the carnivore doctors refer to that as well. And this doctor I'm talking about is just a regular MD in South Georgia that does family practice. So it's good to know there are some doctors out there like that, but a lot of the doctors coming out of school are just trained to look for that LDL so they can prescribe statins. When these doctors are in school these days, it's not like it was, many years ago. It's probably been infiltrated periodically over time, where they're being taught all the money that comes in to teach them, all the money that provides for the schooling, for the education, for the books, is coming from pharmaceutical companies. because they want their doctors knowing how to prescribe things. That's their sales pitch right there, is to have the doctors doing it, because they already knew, especially folks in the elderly community, they listen to what their doctor says. If their doctor says to do it, they're going to do it. I tell you, they could tell them to jump off a bridge and they would do it. I know from working in the retirement industry that a lot of them, they take their doctor's word, because that's what you pay a professional for. If you take your car to a mechanic and it's somebody that you've been to before and you feel like you can trust them, sometimes you don't know if you can trust them, because I mean, how do you know what they're doing is right or wrong? But that's where it's come to, is you bring your car in. I don't know how to fix it. He says this is what it needs. That's what it needs. And that's the way people get with their doctors. But when you start to look at the other factors of cholesterol, like the size of the particles in the LDL, you'll start to find out that when they start using statins to lower your cholesterol, the LDL number may come down, but if they separate the LDL number out into the very low LDL and the regular LDL cholesterol, it's the very low density cholesterol that causes the damage that might be being caused there, because it's much heavier and smaller inside the blood vessels. So it's able to get into the cracks and crevices and cause damage to the... What's that?
Yeah, a lot of it now is... it's like everything else, right? It's automated, right? They take your blood levels, they spit it into the computer, and it comes out and it has the ranges, right? And they look at it and they say, okay, you're above the range. Then they give you a pill. I mean, that's pretty much everything is like that.
And the ranges don't really tell the whole story. The ranges you typically get from the doctor. And that's what I'm saying is if your doctor gives you a hard time about it, you could say, hey, well, how about we get a deeper test of my cholesterol that looks at the particle sizes, and let's see it. And if they don't know anything about that at all, then you know that they're not up on the new information that's available.
And he's not seeing me sleeping better and feeling, I'm not flipping tables over, right? You know what I'm saying, Dante? It's a different, he's not seeing the whole picture, right? So, I just think that the weight loss and just the way I feel, it has to be right. Like, you know what? When something's right, it's right. So, that's how I feel. So.
Yeah, and
awesome.
Also, you know, I'd like to comment on what you said there, Dante. I think I'm in total agreement with you about the particle size, and I think that they are measured. You get a reading; it'll either say A, B, or B, I believe. And A is considered large and buoyant particle size. And sometimes when I explain that to people, I say, well, imagine that the endothelium of your artery is like a chain link fence, right? And if you were rolling golf balls across that, well, the golf balls are going to get stuck in the crevices because they're going to fit in there. But if you get large, buoyant LDL, so it's the size of a beach ball, it's going to roll right over that. It's not getting stuck because it's not going to get in the nooks and crannies. And I also would want to put a recommendation out there for people to consider a book. I know my wife, before she went on carnivore, one of the things she was looking to address is, you know, she has a low ejection fraction in her heart, and to bring that up. And P.S., it went up 8%. It went 8 points within the first 2 weeks of being on carnivore. But one of the things that the doctors had prescribed her was a statin drug. And, you know, it's almost like as one doctor, Ronald Hoffman, who's a really bright leading edge guy, said, it's like paint by number medicine. You know, they look at your number and they say, oh, you need to have a statin. And they're not really considering any other factors. And I when my wife was prescribed that, I recommended that she consider a book. And I sent you a text on it, Dante, if you want to put it on the screen, if you can. I'm not sure. It's there's a book by Dr. Aseem Malhotra. It's called A Statin-Free Life. It's a cheap book. It's $13.47 on Amazon. And you could also Google Dr. Malhotra, and he has presentations on YouTube that you could see. And he talks about what the actual statistics are. And it would astonish you to see how weak the case for a statin is. We all know about all of the side effects that you get from statins. And it's because it depletes your coenzyme Q10 in your body, which is something very important for energy production of your mitochondria. And people get muscle aches, they get all kinds of problems. They're directly associated with an increased incidence of dementia and Alzheimer's. So we have all the side effects. What are the actual benefits? Well, the actual benefits, as published by the drug companies who did the tests, and this is as good as it's ever going to get, were very, very weak. So, for example, if it's primary prevention, which means you haven't had a heart attack or stenting or anything, the decreased likelihood of a heart attack is about 1% after taking this medicine for 5 years and suffering through all the side effects. You're 1% less likely to have a heart attack if it's primary prevention. If it's almost non-existent benefit. If you have had an incident of a heart attack, whatever, it's still very, very weak. It's a matter of, I think, maybe 2.5, something like that, percent reduction. But yet your mortality, that's the interesting thing. So if you take it for 5 years, primary prevention, your likelihood of a heart attack goes down 1%, your extension of your life, 0. So after 5 years, it's 0% that is going to extend your life. So you're getting a 1% chance less of a heart attack, very minor. And there must be something offsetting that because you're not extending your life. So maybe the other problems you're getting are getting you to net zero on actual life extension. So I highly recommend a look at that book. After my wife read it, she took the statins and threw them in the garbage bin.
Hey, you can't beat that. Thankfully, I've never been on a statin. I will say that when I had my cholesterol checked the first time, I remember being nervous about what I was going to see, but the only thing that was out of line for me beforehand really was triglycerides were a little bit high. They were creeping up there. And on one of my most recent checks, I think my triglycerides were 34, which the doctor said they'd never even seen somebody with triglycerides that low, especially a male. And that's like one of the biggest predictors right there is having low triglycerides. Combine that with my HDL, which I believe was around 87, the best time I had it checked. You know, she said, geez, you're going to live forever.
Yeah, absolutely. Dante, can I ask Scott a question? Scott, as you were going out to Carnivore, things evolved a little bit. I mean, you had certain ways of eating you were trying in the beginning, and then I remember as we talked, you kind of refined it. You came into a flow. Can you maybe discuss some of the things you made in the beginning? I know you were doing like minute steaks, and then we talked about it. It was like too lean. You weren't getting enough fat. So maybe talk about some of the things that you changed as you went through.
And this, there's actually a viewer who wanted to know specifically about what you were eating because she too has the gastric sleeve. And she says she's been doing carnivore for about 110 days and hasn't lost any weight. Do you mind sharing what you eat and how much? I can only eat about 4 ounces at a time, she says.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so good luck on your listener's journey there with the gastric. It's a big life thing. So I understand. I'm sensitive to what she's asking. I think the difference with me is, you know, when you get the gastric sleeve, okay, and this is what happens is if you don't eat properly after you have it, it stretches out, right? So I have a sleeve and it stretches out. You know, what they do is they cut your stomach down and it stretches out. I think what happened with me is, you know, I lost a lot of weight with the gastric sleeve and I went back to my old ways, right? You know, a lot of carbs and, you know, just eating everything, right? So I think I have a gastric sleeve that kind of is, my stomach's expanded again. So, I mean, pretty much for me, I mean, I know there's a lot of debate here. I've heard it about caffeine and coffee because it's plant-based. I can't do without coffee. Like I have in the morning, I'm like a coffee person. So I drink like a pot of coffee a day. I'm not saying you should do that. It's probably very bad for the carb, but that's what I do. I do put, you know, heavy cream in it, you know, in there, like but as I've gone on, basically in the beginning, again, I brought to the table kind of, you know, kind of conceptions, right? So I was going out and I was buying, you know, these very lean minute steaks and things like that because, you know, the fat is bad, right? So as I was doing, I wasn't doing as well at first, right? And then as I spoke to John was kind of enlightening me about, you know, I was still losing, don't get me wrong, because, you know, I wasn't eating, you know, part of this too is all what you're not eating, right? I mean, I'm eating meat, but I'm thinking about all the other things that I'm not eating, right? So that's part of this too. But to really accelerate it, I find I used to throw the fat out of the steak. Now I pour it over. John keeps saying, "Yeah, eat the fat." So as I'm doing that, I notice that not only, I don't know if it's going faster for me, but I do find that I'm not hungry. Like, in other words, when I put that fat on there, I don't really find like I get hungry like as much. Like, and I really don't feel ever. And if I feel hungry now, I get up, I go make a steak, or I have some eggs. Like, I'll at 10 o'clock, I'm watching television. I'll go out, I'll make a few eggs and, throw some bacon in there. It's kind of crazy, but I pretty much eat what I want. And I know if you're just starting the gastric sleeve, your stomach's really small. So it's kind of tricky. It's a slippery slope there. You really can't eat too much there because, meat gets in your stomach. It's going to fill you up. So I might be a little different because I think I stretch my sleeve out, but pretty much eat like meat, a lot of eggs and meat. That's pretty much and seltzer. And now I'm over on plain seltzer as well. Like you guys reformed me. So.
Oh, that's good. I was trying to find something that somebody had asked me about here, and it's hard to manage sometimes the stream and listen to everything that's being said, but I did want to say that the fat, you talked about how it seems to make you less hungry. Everything that your body, all the stuff that your body is looking for nutrients to say, okay, I'm full, is in the fat for the most part. That's why adding the fat makes such a big difference. We used to think that... Huh?
And it even tastes much better as well.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. And how many times have you cut the fat off your steak because your doctor told you to do that years ago? But we used to think that,
Grizzle. I love it. It's just delicious.
We used to think that the amount of food that was right here in our stomach area is what determined whether or not we felt hungry. And it turns out that has nothing to do with it. Your body is looking for the nutrients that it needs. It's like there's a computer operator in there looking through everything you're eating, saying, yep, that's what we're looking for. That's what we're looking for. That's what we're looking for. Okay, everything's taken care of. Turn off the hunger button or something like that. And that's what makes the difference, is you're eating something that satiates you. But when you're eating carbohydrates, even though the calories are high, your body doesn't know what a calorie is. That's the thing that I've found out, is all this stuff where we think about calories in, calories out. That's not the way our body works. It's much more complex than that. So when it's getting what it needs it's what saves us from having that hunger. And it makes it easier not to have cravings and to go off diet and all those other things. As long as you're eating the right way, it makes it a whole lot easier.
And when you're eating wrong, it's never enough, Dante. You can just keep eating. I can eat and eat and eat, and it's really never enough. Now I have a steak.
Oh, yeah.
Wonderful.
I remember there was an experiment that I listened to on a podcast. It was one of Ronald Hoffman's podcasts. He had a guest on who did a 6,000 calorie a day diet. And first he did the diet as a high fat diet. And then he did the diet as a high carb diet, low fat diet. And when he did it as a high fat diet, he said that he had to muscle down the food towards the end of the day. In order to get the 6,000 calories, his body was telling him, stop, we have enough. And it was really hard for him to consume the 6,000 calories a day. When he did the carb diet, and by the way, when he was on that diet, he lost weight. He lost inches on his waist, even though he was eating 6,000 calories a day. I think he did it for 3 or 4 weeks. And he felt fantastic. His energy was great. I mean, his pant size was going down. Then when he went to the high carb diet, he said he was starving all day long and he just couldn't get enough. And even though he was eating 6,000 calories, it was a lot of sweets, high processed carbs, everything else. Of course, he gained, I think, 17 pounds. His waist size went up a few inches, and it was absolutely an awful experience. So, yeah, it's the satiety is what it is, that it carries you across.
Truly
yeah,
empty
absolutely. All right, let's see. I was trying to see if there were any questions here. By the way, anybody who has any direct questions for Scotty, if you want to jump to the front of the line, you can always do a super chat. That way I'll get a notification, and it's hard to scroll through all of them and read everything. But talk about your daily right now? What's your daily on how you eat?
Yeah, so I get up in the morning. I'm an early riser just by now. I used to wake up a lot during the night. I don't now. I just sleep right through, which is wonderful. I was kind of I thought I was an insomniac, right? But now I sleep right through, which is great, right? And I get up, I come down, and for breakfast, what I'll do is I love eggs and bacon in the morning. Like this morning, I had a steak, like I had steak and eggs, for breakfast. Like it was great, right? I had a nice steak and eggs, and then a cup of coffee, because I have to have my coffee, because that's my little brand of this. What I do, I have to have my coffee, and it's nice. I have my little morning breakfast, and other days that what I'll have is I kind of what I found is to mix it up that day, and everybody else. What I do is I have eggs pretty much in the morning, but what I'll do is I find I make eggs differently. Like, you can't do the same thing. Like I'll have sunny side up eggs or over easy or scrambled. And what I'll do is I'll cook ham and egg. So it's basically you're taking the ingredients and you're just making something. So I do that. And I think about it the nights before, like, what am I going to have for breakfast tomorrow? How am I going to, because I have basically these limited set of ingredients, right? And like what I can do with them, right? And you get really creative. Like I know John and we made muffins. We made Carnivore muffins one day, right? It was like egg yolk and like meat. It was like it's really unbelievable, right? So I have that for breakfast. And then lunch, I'll come down and what I'll do is I found these like pure. It's like these pure. They're pure sausage, all natural. There's nothing in them. Like we did research on them. Like so, it's just meat, or I'll have a pork chop like for lunch. What is that, like a karate? What is that? A pig that knows karate is a pork chop? Is that what they say? Pork chop for lunch, and at dinner I'll have like I'll have chicken. Sometimes my wife can make a chicken, which I know is not as high in the fat, but I'll have chicken, and I'll eat the skin. So really kind of like just all meat. That's kind of like where I'm at. The one thing that I do is I know you're not supposed to snack. I heard the broadcast last week, right? I do get like while I'm watching television, because that might be just built into me. Like, like when you're watching TV, you have to snack. So what I find I do now is, I have like little pieces of like meat, like I have like in a little bowl, and I'll just pop those in my mouth. And it really kind of, I have steak made already. Like I have steak made up, little chunks in like a bowl, and I keep it in the refrigerator. And then when I want a snack, I go out, I grab a seltzer, and I have some like chunks of meat and just sit there, and it gets me over the hump. I'm not hungry anymore, and that's it. That's pretty much what But I had an urge periodically, because I did read like there's mixed things about hard cheeses, but I haven't gone down that. John kind of said, once you go down the hard cheese road, it gets he to use his words, it's slippery slope, right? So I kind of. I stayed away from the hard cheeses, and I'm like, I guess I'm like a pure lion, I guess, if you want to say. I mean, I just eat just meat, and that's it. I don't eat any plant-based stuff other than coffee. So, but
well,
that's
just to clarify, lion diet is only ruminant animals, and it's not important that you're doing lion diet, I think, only for weight loss for a lot of people. For some reason, for me, it does seem to be. If I eat pork or chicken, and I even have been using eggs several times this year, and my weight kept creeping up a little bit. And I thought, now how in the world am I gaining weight doing the same thing some people are doing eating carnivore? But lion diet, eating only beef or lamb or bison, buffalo, those kind of things, deer, elk.
Okay, so I'm not okay.
It's okay. I mean, it's not like we're not competing to see who gets the best title. We're just trying to find what's going to work for more people. I think the thing about the lion diet that's so good is that, let's say you're trying this for the first time. The lion diet eliminates everything that could be a problem in your system of what you're eating and the food that you're eating.
It's simple. You don't have to think about to eat this, eat that. It's simple. I get it. Yeah.
But it's good to know that you're getting results from your standard carnivore diet. And I've shared stories from other people who are getting results from a standard carnivore where they're eating those other things. But if you start off with lion diet, you know immediately what you're going to be experiencing as far as your body is going to be talking to you more. I mean, I remember feeling great within days of starting to eat only beef and deer, which is mostly what I had in my freezer at the time. I had several years worth of deer that I had hunted myself because I never really got around to cooking it. I didn't hardly ever make any food. I was the administrator of a retirement home, so my cook there at the retirement home would make me a meal a day.
Yeah, you cook at work for you, right? You had the kitchen.
Right, and then my wife would usually make something when I would get home, or I would just snack whatever was in the kitchen. If you look at my countertops on day one, you'd see I had bread and cans of stuff and all kinds of junk food everywhere. And that's probably what I was snacking on a little bit in the day, thinking this isn't so bad, but it was killing me.
Oh, I mean, I eat before, like I said, I think it's not even like it is what I'm eating now because I know the benefits of meat, but I ate so much before, like just quantity wise. Like, I mean, it was just now looking back. I mean, it's just, I can't see how I wouldn't lose weight. I just have bagels and chips and, whatever. I was really unregulated, Dante. I was just really, I didn't really think about it. I just ate whatever I wanted. But now I can eat whatever it's meat, just
right.
It's a different.
Well, the first 6 or 7 months, I was fairly strict with Lion Diet. I would occasionally have some beer at the beginning, but for the most part, I wasn't eating anything at all else. And I lost, I think it was 101 days I saw that I lost the majority of my weight. I'd gotten down to 214, which was the lowest I had been previously when I had done the Atkins diet. It took me 6 months to get down to 214 that time. And then this time, I think it was 110, 111 days, I had gotten down to that same weight. So after that, I incorporated some things. Eventually, I brought butter in. I brought coffee in. I think I brought those both in at the same time because I wanted to try bulletproof coffee. I wanted to experiment with a few other things. All the experimentation for me has been a failure for the most part. Butter tasted good. It was great for me. It seemed that it's like, oh yeah, I want to eat this. But it seemed to add weight gain back. And then I also started to get some of the brain fog and the fatigue and a few other things. So for me, even cutting out the pork again, I never brought really chicken in at all, except for the eggs. And I enjoyed the eggs. And I got to where I tried just doing the yolks even to see if that was the difference. Because some people would say that it's the whites that were causing the problem. But just here recently, I mean, it's been a big change this past week. About 10 days, I have been strictly on beef, water, and salt, and I am not indulging in coffee. I am not getting any butter. And I got to where I was, cutting a piece of butter off a few times a night and eating because you listen to Steak and Butter Gal. She says that worked for her. But there's several other people out there who have come out and talked about that they had to stay away from butter. They had to stay away from eggs. And I appear to be one of those people. But if you're looking to find a way of eating that's going to be best for you, starting with Lion Diet is good because you can try to add some of those things back. Some people get great success.
Yeah, and you add things on. I eat a lot of eggs, Dante. I mean, that's like my go-to, I'll run down. I always have them in the refrigerator. I have my wife makes, she always has hard-boiled eggs in there. And, like I'll come down, I'm hungry. I'll run down, I'm out in the yard. I'll come in, I'll grab a couple of hard-boiled eggs. Boom, I'm out, so it's for me, they work for me because they fill that, they fill the gap, so to speak, if I ever get in between meals. But, I guess whatever works for the individual, it's a kind of, like you said, it's kind of a little experimentation, right?
Yeah, you're going to have to
I
do
got
a
a
little
question for
tweaking
Scott also.
for whatever makes it perfect for you. But I think ultimately, as long as like Dutch Carnivore said in that comment there, as long as you're eating meat, you're going to see progress. You're not going to necessarily see the progress in the area that you want until you tweak it the way you need it to be. But you're going to see health improvements. You're going to see weight loss. You're going to see something that's going to be moving you in the right direction. As long as you're keeping the carbs out. People who do 1/2 foot in, 1/2 foot out, that's where the problem is mixing the carbs in with the fat is not a good combination.
No. Yeah, that's one thing that is important. Sometimes people think they're going on carnivore, but they're going on carnivore as far as adding the meats in, but they're not taking out. And it's so important to take out the bad things that you're eating. And also, Scott, I'd like to ask you about a couple things. How are you sourcing your meats? Are you buying anything in bulk? And then also the size of your meals that you're eating. Because certainly there's a lot of talk from Dr. Baker, from Dr. Shafee, eat until you're really good and full. and your body will tell you when to stop eating. As a matter of fact, I was just listening to a carnivore, the carnivore rabbi today had a new video, and he mentioned that when he eats a good meal and he's really satisfied, nice and good and full, he doesn't feel hungry, he doesn't snack. And I'm wondering, how big are your meals? How many meals a day are you eating? And then how are you kind of sourcing your meat? Are you buying it in bulk? It's kind of a lot of questions all wrapped up into one.
Oh, thank you, John, for the question, right? Because I think it'll help a lot of people. I mean, pretty much for me, and I'm sure others out there, right? I mean, the price of meat has gotten pretty crazy, right? I mean, in terms of sourcing it, we're a member of a wholesale club, and I get my meat there. And because other than that, the amount of meat that I eat would be, I haven't gotten to the point yet, to be honest. I mean, where I'm buying whole sides of beef yet. I'm not really, I'm not there yet. But maybe, right? But I mean, I'm not there yet. So I buy, fattier cuts, marbled, kind of cuts. Now I'm kind of learned that I should look for that. But the amount I eat, I would say, like for example, yesterday at lunchtime, right? I had, 3 big steaks. I mean, it was like in the past, I actually wouldn't have eaten that much for lunch, if I was eating carbs, right? So I was like, after I ate it, I said, like, did I go a little overboard here, like with the steak? But, no, I was really full. And then when it wound up happening at dinner time, I really didn't want as much at dinner. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so it was like I was hungry at that moment. And then because I ate when I was hungry, later on, because normally we're all brainwashed, right? Like, eat your breakfast, eat your lunch, dinner around the same time. This is almost like when I'm hungry, I eat, right? So that's kind of like, what I'm saying, John? So if I spread it out over the day, it probably would be like, you have a normal lunch and a normal dinner. This is like, I'm hungry now. So you know what? I'm going to eat a lot now. And then when dinner comes, I'm not as hungry. You know what I'm getting at? That's how I kind of kind of eat when I'm hungry, and when I'm not, I don't. That's kind of like my new thing, Before I ate all the time. It didn't take much.
Right.
It didn't take much to really coerce me. When my wife said dinner's ready, I was right on it. I was the fastest I was in the whole day. Running things.
Wow, that's fantastic. Yeah, and it's great that you got the connection with the wholesale club. And I'll just throw out there, and I mentioned this on maybe on the last video that Dante and I did together, is that, my local supermarket, I get these ribs. I get this called a cryo pack, and it's the ribeye muscle. It's the primal, they call it. It's the entire muscle, and it typically weighs about 20 pounds. And it's deboned and everything. It comes in a sealed cryo pack. I could put it in my car. It's not leaking all over the place. I take it home. I cut it up, and I'll get anywhere from 13 to 15 steaks out of that, and it's $10.99 a pound.
Yeah, because it's a little weird at first, right? Because like I go into the wholesale club, when I buy ground beef, right, the 80/20, and you come out with it, it's like as long as my arm, right? So I'm putting I'm never going to eat this, right? There's no way I'm ever going to eat all this meat. My wife's like, "What are you buying all this?" And sure enough, it goes, right? Because that's all you're eating, right? All you're eating is meat. That's it. So it goes quickly. In fact, at first I was freezing it, right? Because I put it in the freezer, these big arm-long ground beef things, right? Only to find that it was a mistake, right? I should have cut it up, then into smaller pieces, and then froze the smaller pieces. Otherwise, you have an issue, right? So you live and you learn. So, but John. So sourcing is an issue. How much to purchase? It's a whole, like, I'll buy meat. I'll think I have a ton of meat, right? I'm sure you fellas and everybody else, I think that I have tons of meat, right? I just bought a whole bunch of meat, and then I'll go to the refrigerator and I'll say, I'm out of meat, like, because I eat it so much.
Yeah, well, I would recommend getting a cow when you can.
I'm actually picking up a whole cow tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to digging into that.
That's crazy.
Well,
I just
it's
put a new
something.
freezer in here.
The first time I thought of doing a whole cow, I thought you're talking thousands of dollars, and I thought there's no way I can have a place to put all this. There's no way I can spend that much at one time, and because I've never spent that much on anything at once. Even when I used to buy other things like a stereo or something for the house or TV or whatever. I had to put that on financing. But when I realized I'm filling my freezer, that means for the next 3 to 4 months, I'm going to have a much lower grocery bill.
Right. Do the numbers, because even though you look, that's the mindset too, right? So like, I'll say, oh my, look how much this costs, right? Like, I mean, but then you have to realize, well, this is all you're eating. Like, you're not buying all these other things. So it really winds up, the numbers really wind up working.
Good example of that real quick is after church today, I got my wife and my mother-in-law were in the car, and we went by the convenience store, and I was getting gas, and I heard my wife ask her mother, you want to go inside? You want to get something? I'm thinking, there ain't nothing in that building I want. You guys go have fun. And, thankfully they didn't come back with a bunch of food, but they did come back with a couple of drinks. I said, there's nothing in there that's good for you. Not to mention, you overpaid for it. All the money I saved just on those fill-ups, that extra $5, $6, $7 every time I would fill up, that adds up.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So since we're a little over an hour now, and I want to try to keep these Sunday things to an hour, and if we have to bring Scotty back, we'll be glad to bring anybody back for anything that somebody, if we get a lot of viewers that want to know more about somebody who's gone through what you've gone through with having the gastric sleeve or any of the other issues that you've dealt with, I'd like for you to cover in the end here, talk about the cost difference, or if you've noticed an increase in your monthly budget and what you're spending in food, or how you've been able to account for any changes in that area. And then maybe also recap the benefits that you've experienced in just these past 4.5 months that you've been doing.
Yeah. So, I mean, financially, I guess it's probably, like I said, it's roughly the same to do it, because you're not eating, especially the way I was eating everything. I mean, anything. You go out and buy a little cake, it's $10. I mean, so really financially, really you set your mind and realize it's all you're eating. It kind of like, it's just a mindset. And then all the other benefits that we talked about, like, the sleep and the silky skin and the focus. My mind is so much more focused, and it's just overall like feeling better with energy. Like, I get up in the morning and I'm just like, I'm like 62, like I'm running like all day long. Like, I go from morning till night. I can't get enough, so overall I'm sold on Carnivore. I'm sold, right? So I'd like to come back at the end of the year, like I said, to show proof of sale. All right, so maybe at the end of the year, maybe I'll come back and hopefully I'll be a lot less of me. I can use a smaller screen for me when I come back at the end of the year. Right?
How much weight have you lost already?
Well, on Carnivore, I'm down 42 as of today. So since our conversation, and but it's almost weird. Like, I kind of know, like, I'm starting to know my body. Like, it's sort of like and what's odd, Dante, real quick, I know we're wrapping up, is like, I'll have like a huge breakfast, right? And I weigh in after I eat breakfast. And I'll know, like, I almost know, like, I lost weight. Like, I can't explain it. It's like, you lost weight. And I'm starting to get to that point where I'm starting to feel my body again. Like, when you're very, very overweight, you're not really in tune with your body. Like, you're not, right? And now, like, I know, all right, I'll say, you know what? I lost weight. I could feel it, right? And I bought one quick thing. I bought a shirt, like, on the internet. It was really, like, why did I buy this? It wouldn't even get across. I wore it out yesterday. It was such a great, it was like a gold shirt. It was awesome, because I bought a shirt off the internet, and, it was like, it was all these excuses like, oh, it was made overseas, that's why it's small, all that. No, it was like, it was me. I'm big. So I put the shirt on yesterday and it worked. So I'm very happy. So
I've noticed that about the sizes. When I go to Walmart now, I used to have a problem when I wore 2 and 3X finding sizes that I wanted to wear. When I go to Walmart these days, I look at the clothes and I have a hard time finding clothes that fit me now, because I a lot of times have to wear medium and small on the clothes that are on the rack. And I thought, there's no way I'm down to a small. But I truly believe they have increased the size on all the sizes, the actual amount of fabric that's used in all the fabrics, so that we don't notice what's going on to us. It's like, I don't know if there's some collusion going on, but it sure feels that way. Because when I was in Italy back in 2006, and I was 300 pounds back then, I was wearing 2 and 3X, but if I was buying a shirt or something over there, it was like a 6X.
Yeah, because they wear it really tight there, and they smoke the cigarettes, right, with the little tight shoes, right? They're
Yeah.
really tight there. Yeah.
Hey Scott, we're looking behind you in the background there, and I could see your beautiful backyard there in Melbourne, Florida.
Yeah.
Scott lives in a very special neighborhood that is amazing. It's really like a throwback. It's like paradise. When I visit Scott, it's absolutely amazing, and that lush paradise behind him is largely created by Scott. I saw the property before Scott moved in there, and now it's like an arboretum. And I know that one of the things that you got from Carnivore was a big surge of energy, and it was
Well,
maybe a couple of months in.
Yeah, it's a little contrary because what I wanted to do is actually have a homestead, right? So all I do is I still garden. I have more vegetables you can shake a stick at, and I do it every day. So my wife's eating it, but it's kind of a weird, you know. So maybe I'll get into cattle on my property. Maybe that's the next thing. But
I
all
think
these,
that would be good.
could do a food forest. I don't know if you know your listeners know what a food forest is, but I was going down the road of a food forest, but it's a little contrary to my carnivore way of life now. So we'll see.
Well, you know, you're
Okay,
talking
well, I
about
remember
gardening
one
and
day.
stuff ties into one more question somebody had about spicy food and cayenne peppers. I know I can't do spices myself, but I know a lot of carnivores do. Are you using pepper and spices and things like that on
All
your
I
meat?
all I use is pretty much like pretty salt and pepper. That's it. I don't know if I'm supposed to have pepper. You tell me, but I use salt and pepper, and now
If
I
it
use the
works for
new
you,
salt.
go for it.
Yeah, and I was using until last week. Now I know I use the Redmond salt. I wasn't aware of all the negative things with regular salt, so I kind of moved over into that camp. So I do taste the difference. The salt, the quality salt is good, but that's it. Spices, no, I don't really use a lot of spices because I'm not sure how that impacts, with the whole plant base and stuff like that. So I just pretty much salt and pepper. That's it.
Yeah, and just to
Very good.
answer the question for myself, I was a spicy food eater before. I used to love, you give me some habanero or some ghost peppers even. I'd take the ghost peppers and get them dehydrated and grind them into stuff and then mix them into dips and all kind of things. I used to love all of that. To me, that was just feeding. I don't know what that was feeding, because part of eating that real spicy food to me was more of a show of strength. It was like a show off type of thing. I could go
Yeah, yeah.
eat the hottest wings at the restaurant or something like that. It had nothing to do with satiating or filling my body's needs for that day. But if I had a choice between giving up the peppers and things like that and feeling good all the time and feeling comfortable in my own skin and wearing clothes that I want to wear,
Brainer, Dante. No
it's a
brainer.
no-brainer. Exactly. All right. Well, guys, I do appreciate you both being here today. Again, I thank you, John, for coming back. And hopefully, I don't know how this is going to go moving forward. We're all learning this together. But I'm going to tell you one thing. For me, as a YouTuber who's been doing this now, and we've got 64,000 people that follow the channel, it just blows my mind that even 10,000 people are tuning in to hear what I've got to say about something. But it reminds me, see, I don't get this face to face as much. So I really like this live thing we're doing where we get to hear stories. And I have a feeling there's a lot of other people out there who appreciate having the extra stories as well. Because when you're constantly told by the medical establishment that this is going to be bad for you, or somebody in the medical establishment tells you that you need to be on a statin and you need to be on these drugs, it's scary because you don't know who to trust. And these days it's like, what do we trust in at all? You can't hardly trust in the
You know what?
government. You can't.
It puts a face on it. It makes it real. Like to have people come on and give testament to their experience and what they're going through, and it's great. I thank you for the opportunity.
Awesome. John, it's good to see you again. Folks that
Great
tuned
seeing
in,
you, Dante. Scotty, thank you.
glad
Great
to have
seeing
you
you,
guys
brother.
here on a Sunday.
Go Carnivores, baby. Go Carnivores.
Woohoo!
How do I get out of this? Hang up.